The Exile's Path. The message arrived on a perfectly ordinary Wednesday. Every screen across Earth, from personal devices to massive billboards, simultaneously flickered to display the same symbol. A spiral of unfamiliar stars surrounded by elegant flowing script that no human language database could identify. Then came the voice, somehow speaking every language at once. The Galactic Conclave summons Earth to judgment. 2 representatives will present themselves at the provided coordinates in precisely 14 Earth rotations. Compliance is mandatory. In the chaos that followed, humanity learned 2 things. We were not alone in the universe, and our first official introduction to galactic society was not a welcome but a summons to court. After days of frantic global debate, the United Earth Council selected 2 representatives. Captain Ilara Vega, commander of the International Space Station's Defense Wing, and Dr. Caden Reed, Earth's foremost xenolinguist and diplomatic strategist. Both were chosen for their extraordinary calm under pressure and their capacity to represent humanity's best qualities. "This isn't how I imagined first contact," Ilara said, examining the sleek vessel that had appeared in Earth orbit, presumably their transport to the Conclave. Its navigation systems and propulsion technology were beyond anything humanity had developed. Caden ran his hand along the smooth pearlescent hull. "We've dreamed of this moment for centuries. Meeting advanced civilizations, joining a galactic community." His voice trailed off. "But something tells me this won't be the welcome party science fiction promised us." The journey took 3 days in a vessel that somehow bent space around them. Stars streaked past in ribbons of light until suddenly they were somewhere else, facing a massive station that resembled a blooming crystal flower, each petal housing what appeared to be different environmental zones. They were escorted through the station by silent entities that resembled tall humanoids made of overlapping translucent scales. Around them moved beings of every conceivable shape, some vaguely humanoid, others defying any terrestrial biology. Some floated in containment fields, others moved on multiple appendages or glided on fields of energy. All of them stopped to watch the humans pass, and in their many eyes, Ilara saw the same thing. Fear mixed with disgust. "They're looking at us like we're dangerous," she whispered to Caden. "Or contagious," he replied, maintaining his diplomatic composure despite the clear hostility surrounding them. The central chamber of the conclave station was vast, with tiered seating that rose in a perfect circle around a central platform. Hundreds of diverse beings occupied these seats, while at the highest tier sat 7 figures on ornate chairs. At the center of it all stood a single being, tall and willowy with skin like polished obsidian that reflected starlight from within. "The representatives of Sol 3 will approach," the central figure announced, its voice resonating directly in their minds rather than through sound. As they stepped forward, the being introduced itself. "I am High Arbiter Viridian, voice of the Conclave. You stand before the assembled representatives of over 8,000 sentient species that form our galactic civilization." Before Caden could offer a prepared greeting, Viridian continued, "This is not a diplomatic welcome. This is a tribunal. Humanity stands accused of being fundamentally incompatible with galactic peace." The air above the platform shimmered, and suddenly images appeared, Earth's history playing out like a grotesque highlight reel of humanity's worst moments. Wars, environmental destruction, nuclear tests, genocide, torture, all displayed without context, without showing the healing, the learning, the growth that followed. "For 3 centuries, we have observed your development," Viridian said. "You create art with one hand and weapons with the other. You speak of peace while preparing for war. You claim to love your world while destroying it." Caden stepped forward. "With respect, High Arbiter, you show only our darkest moments. Every species must have evolved through struggle." "Not like yours," interrupted a bulbous being from the council tier. "Most sentient species require thousands of years to develop new technologies. You created atomic power and used it for destruction within the same century. You went from primitive flight to space travel in less than 70 years. Your adaptability makes you unpredictable and dangerous. Ilara spoke now, her military training evident in her controlled voice. Then why not guide us? If you've watched us for centuries, why not offer help? A ripple of something like uncomfortable laughter spread through the chamber. That is not our way, Viridian replied. Species must evolve naturally until they reach a point of stability and maturity. We only intervene when a species presents a clear danger to the greater community. And you believe we're that danger? Caden asked. In answer, new projections appeared, simulations showing human ships spreading across the stars, conflicts with alien civilizations, worlds stripped of resources. Not history, but prediction. This is speculation, not evidence. Ilara protested. You can't judge us for crimes we haven't committed. The Conclave protects the galaxy from threats before they manifest. Viridian responded coldly. We have seen enough of humanity's pattern to make our determination. Caden tried another approach. Please, show the other side of humanity too. Our art, our compassion, how we risk ourselves to save others, even other species, our capacity for growth and learning. After a moment's hesitation, Viridian gestured. New images appeared, humans rushing into burning buildings to save strangers, international aid during disasters, medical breakthroughs, acts of selfless kindness, the beauty of human creativity in art and music. For a moment, hope flared. But then Viridian spoke again. The Conclave acknowledges humanity's capacity for good. However, after considerable deliberation and by majority vote, humanity has been deemed too unstable, too adaptable, and too potentially dangerous for unrestricted interaction with galactic society. The words fell like stones. Earth and your entire solar system will be placed under quarantine isolation. Viridian continued. A containment barrier will be erected at the boundary of your system. No travel beyond it will be permitted. No communication with other worlds allowed. No exchange of technology or knowledge. You're imprisoning our entire species. Ilara's voice rose in controlled anger. We prefer to call it protective isolation, said one of the 7 council members. The quarantine will remain until humanity demonstrates sufficient stability to be reconsidered. And how long might that take? Caden asked, struggling to maintain his diplomatic tone. Previous quarantines have lasted between 2 and 10,000 years, came the impassive reply. Shock rendered both humans momentarily speechless. The decision is final, Viridian announced. You will return to your world and inform your leaders. The barrier will activate precisely 1 Earth rotation after your arrival. As guards moved to escort them out, a small being with skin like burnished copper brushed past Ilara, pressing something into her palm. Not all agree, the alien whispered. I am Zextroll. Keep this hidden. Use it when the time comes. The journey back to Earth was silent, both representatives trying to process the magnitude of what had just happened. Earth had finally made contact with advanced alien civilizations, only to be judged, condemned, and sentenced to isolation in the same moment. They're afraid of us, Ilara said finally, examining the small crystalline device Zextroll had given her. It pulsed with an inner light that shifted between colors. No, Caden corrected, looking out at the stars they would soon be cut off from. They're afraid of what we might become. The announcement to Earth's population created initial panic. To be told we weren't alone in the universe, only to immediately learn we were being quarantined like a disease, struck at humanity's core. Markets crashed. Religions faced crisis. Governments teetered on the edge of collapse. But then something remarkable happened. Instead of fragmenting, humanity united. The common threat, the cosmic isolation, accomplished what nothing else had. Former enemies formed alliances. Resources that once went to militaries were redirected to science and space exploration. The United Earth Council, previously a symbolic body with little real power, became the central organizing force for humanity's response. We need to understand this barrier, Dr. Maya Harrington said in the first emergency summit of Earth's top scientists. If we can understand it, we can defeat it. Alongside the scientific response came philosophical acceptance. Perhaps this isolation is exactly what we need, spiritual leaders and philosophers suggested. Time to perfect our own world before spreading our problems to others. Within the first year of quarantine, the Genesis Protocol was established, a systematic plan to heal Earth's environment, eliminate poverty, revolutionize education, and advance human technology using only the resources available within the solar system. The mysterious device from Zextrol proved to be a data crystal containing information about the barrier's technology and, more importantly, about galactic society beyond. It revealed that not all species agreed with the quarantine and that the conclave was not as unified as it presented itself. "They've made a critical mistake," Hilara told the Council 5 years into quarantine. "They isolated us, but they also created a unified humanity with a single purpose. They've given us time to become stronger, to transform ourselves." In secret facilities across Earth and in hidden bases on Mars and Europa, humanity prepared. New technologies developed at unprecedented rates. Quantum computing, zero-point energy, gravity manipulation. Problems that might have taken centuries to solve were addressed in years by a human population working with singular focus. Necessity isn't just the mother of invention. Caden told the Council on the 10th anniversary of the quarantine. It's also the mother of transformation. They wanted us to change, to become less dangerous. Well, we have changed. He activated a holographic display showing the first prototype of the Phoenix, a ship designed to pierce the barrier using principles derived from Zextrol's data crystal, but not in the way they expected. As the gathered leaders looked at the sleek vessel, Hilara smiled for the first time in years. They thought they were containing a threat. Instead, they created exactly what they feared most. In the vast darkness beyond Neptune's orbit, the barrier shimmered like a translucent blue curtain draped around the entire solar system, humanity's cosmic prison wall. But in 10 years, it had also become something else. A challenge, a dare, and humanity was about to answer. Defiance among stars. 10 years into the quarantine, Earth was unrecognizable. The necessity of self-sufficiency had driven innovation at a pace never before seen in human history. Where once stood polluted cities now rose gleaming arcologies powered by fusion and quantum energy matrices. The oceans, once choked with plastic, now teemed with life. Deserts bloomed with engineered crops that required minimal water. The Genesis Protocol hadn't just healed Earth, it had transformed it into something greater than it had ever been. In the Armstrong Lunar Base's observation dome, Admiral Hilara Vega, promoted for her leadership during the crisis, watched Earth rise over the lunar horizon. The beautiful blue-green sphere showed no outward signs of the feverish activity occurring beneath its peaceful appearance. "Beautiful view," said Caden Reed, now Secretary General of the United Earth Council, as he joined her. "Hard to believe how much has changed. Is everything ready?" Hilara asked, not taking her eyes off Earth. "Phoenix launches in 6 hours," Caden confirmed. "Dr. Harrington believes they've identified a fluctuation pattern in the barrier, a microscopic instability that occurs for approximately 1.7 seconds every 9 days. Enough time to slip through. Just barely, with the phase-shifting technology. It'll be tight." Hilara finally turned to face him. "And if they don't make it back through?" Caden's expression was grim but determined. "Then we send another team through the next window. And another after that. We keep trying until we succeed." The Phoenix was humanity's masterpiece, a vessel unlike anything built before. Using principles derived from studying the barrier itself, it incorporated technology that could briefly shift the ship partially out of normal spacetime, making it nearly incorporeal for precious microseconds. Just long enough, they hoped, to slip through the barrier during one of its fluctuation points. Commander Sophia Chen checked her crew one last time as the Phoenix prepared for launch from the secret Olympus base on Mars. "Navigation," she called. Course plotted to intercept the barrier at the calculated fluctuation point. Lieutenant Praich responded. Engineering. Phase shift drive at optimal capacity. Chief Engineer Takahashi confirmed. Ready to activate on your command. Sophia touched the small pendant around her neck, a piece of metal from the first International Space Station, before addressing her team. We all know what's at stake. This isn't just about breaking through a barrier. It's about reclaiming humanity's future among the stars. Whatever we find out there, we carry all of Earth with us. The launch was conducted in total silence, masked from potential conclave monitoring by a planet-wide electromagnetic distortion field, another innovation born of necessity. The Phoenix accelerated through Mars's thin atmosphere, its advanced propulsion leaving barely a trace. Meanwhile, on Earth, trillions of data points were being processed through quantum AI systems, analyzing every microsecond of the barrier's behavior since its installation. Maya Harrington and her team watched tensely from mission control buried deep beneath the Himalayas. Phoenix approaching barrier in 45 seconds, an operator announced. Fluctuation window in 50 seconds. Maya pressed her communication link. Phoenix, be advised, we're detecting a slight deviation in the barrier's energy pattern. The window may open 5 seconds earlier than calculated. On the Phoenix, Sophia immediately adjusted. Accelerate to intercept. Phase shift drive to standby. The barrier loomed ahead, a shimmering blue wall that appeared both solid and ethereal. To the naked eye, it seemed unchanged, but the Phoenix's advanced sensors detected the subtle energy shifts that indicated the coming fluctuation. Window opening in 3, 2, 1. Prakish counted down. Activate phase shift now. Sophia ordered. The ship shuddered as the experimental drive engaged, creating a sensation that crew members would later describe as falling through yourself. For 1.3 seconds, the Phoenix existed in a state between normal space and somewhere else, just long enough for it to slip through the momentarily weakened section of the barrier. When reality reasserted itself, stars surrounded them. Stars no human had seen in a decade. Status report. Sophia called out, her voice steady despite the historic moment. All systems functioning, Takahashi reported. Phase shift drive cooling down, but operational. Position. Sophia asked. We're approximately 2 light hours beyond the barrier, Prakish confirmed, his voice filled with barely contained excitement. Commander, we did it. We're out. The cheer that went up in both the Phoenix and Mission Control was spontaneous and heartfelt. Humanity had taken its first step back into the galaxy. But celebration quickly gave way to the mission at hand. The Phoenix had 3 critical objectives. Establish a hidden outpost beyond conclave detection, make contact with potential allies using Zextrol's information, and gather intelligence on conclave operations. They found their base location in an asteroid field orbiting a brown dwarf star, officially designated as uninhabitable in the conclave records Zextrol had provided, and thus rarely patrolled. Within the largest asteroid, they established Haven 1, humanity's first foothold beyond the quarantine. It's not much, Sophia observed as they activated the self-expanding habitat modules within the hollowed asteroid. But it's a start. Over the next 6 months, humanity's presence beyond the barrier grew cautiously. 5 more ships made the journey through meticulously calculated fluctuation windows, each bringing specialists and equipment to expand Haven 1. Dr. Maya Harrington herself came through on the 3rd mission, bringing with her the prototype for her revolutionary Genesis C technology, microscopic machines that could transform hostile environments into habitable ones within months instead of centuries. The Conclave doesn't value these worlds, she explained, showing holographic projections of several planets marked as non-viable in Conclave records. But with Genesis Cs, we could create habitable outposts across dozens of systems they've written off. Caden, who had made the dangerous journey through the barrier to oversee diplomatic efforts, recognized the strategic advantage immediately. Worlds they don't value become our hidden network. The first contact with Zextrol happened at a remote trading outpost 3 systems away from Haven 1. Ilara, disguised using adaptive camouflage technology that made her appear as a minor species from the galactic rim, met the copper-skinned alien in a private chamber. "You succeeded far more quickly than I anticipated," Zextrol admitted, examining the small Genesis seed Maya had provided as proof of human ingenuity. "Most quarantine species take centuries to even understand the barrier technology." "We're not most species," Ilara replied simply. Zextrol's multifaceted eyes blinked in what might have been approval. "Indeed not. And you should know, the Conclave is not as united as it appears. Many species, particularly the younger ones, oppose your quarantine. My own people, the Nalori, have been arguing for its reversal for years." "Why would they help us?" Ilara asked. "Because the Conclave has grown stagnant," Zextrol explained. "The elder species have held power for millennia. They fear change, innovation, precisely the things humans excel at. Some of us believe the galaxy needs what humanity offers." From this meeting grew a covert network of alien allies. The Nalori provided advanced shielding technology. The Kethril, master bioengineers, exchanged techniques with Maya that improved the Genesis seeds. The Vorka Trading Consortium, seeing potential profit, established secret supply lines. Most surprisingly valuable was human culture, art, music, literature, cuisine. Things humans took for granted proved fascinating to species that had developed along different evolutionary paths. The thriving black market for human cultural artifacts emerged, with traders willing to exchange valuable technology and information for Earth novels or musical compositions. "They underestimated what we offer the galaxy," Caden observed at Haven One's first anniversary celebration. "They saw only our capacity for destruction, not our capacity for creation." The operation remained secret for nearly 2 years before the inevitable happened. A Conclave patrol detected anomalous energy signatures near one of humanity's newly seeded outposts. A small human transport ship, caught off guard, had to engage its experimental phase shift drive to escape. In the Haven 1 command center, alarms blared as the incident report came in. "They got away clean," Sophia, now Haven's military commander, reported. But the Conclave ship recorded the phase shift signature. "They'll know it's technology that shouldn't exist, technology humans shouldn't have." Ilara and Caden exchanged glances. "How long until they connect the dots?" Ilara asked. "A month, maybe less," Zextrol answered from the communication screen. "My sources in the Conclave Security Division report they've already launched an investigation into quarantine breaches." "Then we accelerate," Caden decided. "How many outposts do we have operational?" 17, Maya reported, with 9 more in early development stages. "And our fleet?" 23 vessels with phase shift capability, Sophia answered. "Another 15 under construction." Ilara nodded decisively. "It's time for Phase 3. Phase 3 had always been the most audacious part of humanity's response to quarantine. Direct challenge to the Conclave itself, not through military action, but through a demonstration of value so overwhelming that the quarantine would become obviously counterproductive. Over the next 3 months, humanity's hidden network went into overdrive. Genesis seeds were deployed to dozens of non-viable worlds, transforming dead planets into burgeoning ecosystems. Human cultural exchanges with allied species increased tenfold. The phase shift technology was adapted to communication systems, creating a secure network that Conclave monitoring couldn't detect. When the Conclave finally traced the unusual activity to Haven 1, they dispatched a small fleet to investigate. What they found shocked them to their core. Not a struggling outpost of quarantine violators, but a thriving hub connecting 17 revitalized worlds, with ships coming and going using technology the Conclave barely understood, and representatives from over a dozen species engaged in vigorous trade and cultural exchange. The Conclave enforcers transmitted images back to their superiors. High Arbiter Viridian himself viewed the evidence with mounting concern. The quarantine hadn't contained humanity. It had concentrated them, forced them to innovate even faster than before, and then inadvertently provided them with exactly the motivation they needed to spread their influence. The confrontation, when it came, was not what the Conclave expected. Instead of hiding or fleeing, Haven One transmitted an open invitation to parley. The message was signed by Secretary General Caden Reed and Admiral Ilara Vega, the same two humans who had stood before the Conclave a decade earlier. In Haven One's newly constructed diplomatic chamber, Ilara and Caden waited as a delegation of Conclave representatives was escorted in, led by none other than High Arbiter Viridian himself. "You violated quarantine," were Viridian's first words, "an act punishable by extension of isolation for another 1,000 years. We prefer to think of it as demonstrating precisely why the quarantine was a mistake," Caden replied calmly. "Please, look around you. This outpost exists on a world your records designated as permanently uninhabitable." Viridian's obsidian skin rippled in what might have been discomfort. "Through technology you should not possess." "Technology we developed ourselves," Ilara corrected, "with some guidance from allies who recognize your error in judgment." "Allies?" Viridian's voice carried genuine surprise. What species would risk Conclave's censure? He was interrupted as the doors opened and representatives from 7 different alien species entered, all members of the Conclave who had secretly been working with humanity. "We would," said the Nilori ambassador, Zextrol now openly taking their place as humanity's first alien ally, as would many others who have come to see value where the Conclave saw only threat. Over the next hours, the human team presented irrefutable evidence of what they'd accomplished. Dead worlds made living again, cultural exchanges that enriched multiple civilizations, technological innovations shared freely with allied species, all achieved in just a fraction of the time the Conclave had expected humanity to remain in isolation. "You sentenced us to quarantine because you feared what we might become," Ilara concluded. "But in doing so, you forced us to become exactly that. Faster, more determined, more innovative than even we thought possible. The only difference is that now, we've had a decade to understand your civilization and build relationships with species who share our vision." "And what vision is that?" Viridian asked, his tone unreadable. Caden stepped forward. "A galaxy where diversity of thought and approach is valued, not feared. Where species help each other advance rather than stagnating in isolation. Where even the youngest civilization might have something to teach the oldest." Viridian was silent for a long moment. Then, with a gesture that seemed both resigned and respectful, he said, "Perhaps the Conclave's judgment was premature." 3 months later, the barrier around Earth's solar system flickered and disappeared. Humanity was officially welcomed into galactic society, not as supplicants grateful for acceptance, but as equals who had earned their place among the stars. On the day the barrier fell, billions of humans looked up at the night sky with new understanding. The stars were no longer distant, unreachable points of light. They were destinations, possibilities, future homes, and in classified Conclave records, humanity's status was quietly updated. No longer listed as quarantined, potentially dangerous, Earth's file now carried a different designation. Classification, emergent power, approach with respect. The species that had tried to contain humanity had instead created exactly what they feared most. But in doing so, they had also created precisely what the galaxy needed: a force for change, innovation, and new possibilities in a civilization that had forgotten how to evolve. Humanity had returned to the stars not as the dangerous children the Conclave had judged them to be, but as something far more significant. They had returned as equals, as innovators, as the future.